EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchich here with your outlook for February 12th, 2024. It is Monday, start of the new work week, and Kinsley's Family Market in Broadheadsville, Monroe County, Pennsylvania sponsors the Monday video forecast. This year, Fat Tuesday is tomorrow, February 13th, Foshnot Day. So stop by and pick up their famous donuts for only $7.99 a dozen, fresh and warm for one day only. Then on Wednesday, Valentine's Day, love is in the air and in their store. Pick your lovely up a dozen roses in their floral department and hand-dipped chocolate strawberries in their bakery. Sweets for the sweets. They are Kinsley's ShopRite, the world's largest ShopRite, located at 107 Kinsley's Drive in Broadheadsville, Monroe County, Pennsylvania, proud sponsors of the Monday video forecast. So boy, do we have some changes afoot here. Now there's been a clear trend here over the past 12 hours or so, which we had a couple different model cycles. Now, when we did this, the first call map, this is the reason why we do a first call, final call system, because there are some changes sometimes, usually minor. In this case, it might be a little bit more than minor for some areas, and that's because there are shifts last minute. Usually, the shifts are for less, okay? In this case, it might be more, with a notable southeastern shift today during the course of time that has been since we released our map. Okay, so we released our map. I know we released it publicly at mid-afternoon. We already had it done in the forum by late morning. Okay, so this is already done for the first call map, and the final call map is where we do some adjustments. Now, I want to start this off here at this point because here's a low pressure that we're looking at across the Tennessee Valley, and this is looking at later today. Precipitation is just beginning in the form of rain, and that hasn't changed. It is going to start off as rain in most areas. But notice these height lines. See these height lines? These are the red height lines here. See that? They go right up in here. So that's all warmer air on this side of that boundary, right? There's colder air up here. So what changed here since we released our map is there was some expected convection, which is thunderstorm activity basically across parts of the southern mid-Atlantic and southeastern United States. Okay, so the expected convection that was there actually will increase these heights along the eastern seaboard and make it a little bit higher than this instead of what was shown earlier today. So there's been a little bit of an underperforming convection situation, which is lowering and weakening the latent heat release processes. And so we're seeing a clear trend southeast with the colder air. So this is a dynamic cooling situation. We knew that from the get-go. But we expected the heights to be high enough to offset some of that to allow the heaviest accumulations to occur up in these areas right in here. Those were, according to the first call map we had, they were right there. There's been a trend today to push this a little bit further southeast, though, and that is because the latent heat release processes are not as great as previously modeled. So the models were overestimating the amount of convection and the latent heat release that is associated with that. Okay, so the heights are not going to be quite as high, and we're seeing a trend further southeast this evening with all of the models across the board. There's not one model that ran through the Canadian model that ran this evening that is in disagreement with this idea. They are all trending in this direction, and I'll show you that trend here in a second. But what this does is it means that our snow map that we put out, the first call, is going to have some adjustments, okay? There will be a rain to snow situation in this case, okay? But it's going to occur quicker for some of those marginal areas prior. So here's the NAM high-res future simulated radar, and this is looking at 8 p.m. this evening when you have between 6 and 8 as we had a start time in our southern areas for some precipitation to work in as rain. This is precipitation type at this point, okay? And then we move through just past midnight, we start getting some changing over to snow here in parts of Center County and Clinton County, right? And then it just keeps expanding and expanding. Now, this is not too dissimilar from what we saw before. The only difference is this changeover on the fringe areas, which is right in here, is happening a little bit sooner, okay? And along that gradient, there is some pretty heavy snow right here occurring right along the boundary. So that means you can get snow at some pretty intense rates for several hours before this ends. And this is only 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And this is not going to end until probably early afternoon on Tuesday. Now, it won't be this intense, right? But you see what this is doing. This changes over to snow pretty quickly all the way down to the I-95 corridor. So now the areas that we had in, say, like a coating to an inch might be more like 1 to 3. The areas we had in 1 to 3 might be more like 3 to 6, 4 to 8. I mean, it's that dramatic of a change, all because of those latent heat release processes not materializing as it was expected when we did our maps this morning. Okay, so this is a sudden change. This is looking at noon. Precipitation is about to wind down, and it will do so between 12 and 2 p.m. here on Tuesday. Okay, so it does look like it's going to move out pretty quickly, but by the time it does that, you're going to have a difference in snowfall from what we expected prior. Here is the GFS over the last 4 runs, so you can see this change. Okay, the low pressure itself is not really too much different. It's not really an issue with that and the placement of low pressure like many are speculating, but it's these height lines. Notice the height lines start off here. Look where it is at the end of the loop. It's all the way down here. Okay, that's where your height lines are. And that's because you don't have those latent heat release processes that I spoke about associated with convection that would pump up these heights a little bit more. So what you're seeing here is this bullseye that was up here is now shifting off to the south and east. And that's very clear and evident. Okay, this is the GFS that ran over the last 4 runs and ending with the most recent run. Here's what the snowfall map does on the GFS ensemble. Look what it does. It starts off here and moves off to the south and east. There's a clear shift. Okay, this is not just one model going nuts with it and saying, well, maybe it'll be a little bit more. They're all doing that. Okay, so that means that our first call map, which is right here, which was drawn very well for what for what was going on at that time. Now, everything is starting to shift off in this direction, okay? Now, how much does it do that? We still want to see the early morning guidance, the 6Z runs, the 12Z runs, before we commit to another, what will eventually be our final call, and that will be mid-afternoon on Monday. But this is the trend so far this evening has been to push us off to the south and east. So, places like that are in this 1 to 3 area might end up being more like 3 to 6 now, or even higher than that in some places. Okay, Allentown was looking at about maybe 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 inches of snow, something like that. Now it might be more like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 or 4 to 6 or maybe more than that. It's possible. And this heaviest axis, which is up here, following higher elevations, is going to start pushing off to the south and east as well. Not that far, but I mean, it's going to push off some. So that might be over, instead of where it is now, it might be more like in these areas, right? Okay, for the heaviest snow. So we'll see. This is something we need to keep looking at over the next, we have time. Okay, we have time. So there's been clear trends here throughout the day today. Do they reverse a little bit? It's possible. I don't know that if they're overcorrecting or not. We'll see, and then time will tell on that. But when we come out with the final call, it's going to be our firm. That's the one you grade on, right? That's the one we put to the test, and you can come back and say, well, you had this and we had that. That's fine. Okay, that's where we're judged on is the final product that we put out. Just like you put in a rough draft in high school, right? You put a rough draft in for a book report. Teacher does her little marks and pens and stuff like that. Said, oh, go back and do better, right? Come back with us for the final product. What you submit as the final product is your graded assignment, right? This is no different. So it's kind of like that. Now, I don't really look at it that way typically but I'm trying to appeal to the public crowd here. We are a private forecasting business, and we like to be as accurate as possible and lead the way on this kind of thing. And this is one where the weenies might be able to pull a fast one on us here because of that latent heat release process is not materializing and the heights not being quite as high is allowing for this very notable southeast shift. So we'll see where we go today, but there is the opportunity for this to increase in some areas, especially in those marginal areas that we spoke about earlier and we had outlined in our first call map. It is possible. This is not a fake thing right now, okay? So then after this point, we are going to have some cold weather moving here on Wednesday. We're going to have temperatures that are going to be in the low to mid 30s, actually. So it's going to be pretty chilly on Wednesday with some breezy conditions. There will be some breezy conditions here on Tuesday afternoon as well as that system's pulling away, but it's going to continue here on Wednesday. But temperatures in the low to mid 30s, it looks like here on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we'll call it partly to mostly cloudy. Starting off partly cloudy in the morning, clouds are going to increase. And then we're going to have this system moving in from the Great Lakes. It might produce a few snow showers overnight Thursday night. Not a real big deal right now. We're going to keep an eye on it just in case as a quick mover with some snow showers, but there might be some minor accumulations associated with that as well Thursday night, overnight. Then we're back to intervals of clouds here on Friday. And then Saturday doesn't really show anything here on the European model. Maybe a few snow showers in the vicinity Friday night into Saturday morning. We have low chances for that in our local forecast in that same period, Friday night to Saturday morning, to cover for any snow showers that are in the vicinity here at that point. This is just a reinforcing trough moving in, and that's going to set up a colder weekend with temperatures below average for the weekend as well, both Saturday and Sunday. But it does look like by the time we get to Sunday, we're going to be back to intervals of clouds and sun and chilly temperatures. So we're really focusing here on the first storm, obviously coming in on Monday evening. It's going to start off as rain first, go over to snow, and that is very evident here on these precipitation type maps. Starting off as rain, going over to snow, and then how far southeast does this get? Does this end up increasing totals, especially in these areas right in here that weren't really expecting a whole lot before? Now they might be if this shift is legit. And we will continue to follow that throughout the day today and have a final call map out middle of the afternoon on Monday. I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marters. That is your outlook for February 12th, 2024. Have a great Monday.